at ACE, we do see people coming in who have been scammed and sent large amounts of money through a bank, and or borrowed money in lines of credit and then provided money to a scammer. The banks are supposed to have a seniors code of conduct in place, which stipulate the types of protections that they should specifically have for seniors, the type of due diligence they should do with suspicious transactions. The bank has an opportunity to, really get in the way of a fraud being accomplished, either by bringing their client, the senior's attention to it, or perhaps refusing certain transactions to be completed.
There are scenarios where lawyers or paralegals are involved in the fraud themselves. In that case, if they've defrauded the victim as their client and taken money that they shouldn't have, whether it's from their trust account or otherwise taking money from them that they shouldn't have taken from them, there's a Law Society compensation fund that people can apply to. Now, they have to make sure that they alert the Law Society as quickly as possible about any potential fraud, because there is a time limit on that. In addition to that, there may be insurers involved. So if you have a lawyer or a mortgage broker or a paralegal or a real estate agent who's involved somehow in the fraud, they generally all have insurers for their negligence. So even if they were an unknowing participant in a fraud as your professional, that doesn't excuse them from liability. And if you sue them, they potentially have a way of having their insurer come in and compensate you, even though the money's gone, the fraudster is gone, or maybe not even identified. But nonetheless, there are third parties who might be liable to you to make you whole.
And to add to that list of potential third parties, banks, it's possible that there were certain obligations or protections that the bank didn't have in place that allowed your money to go to a third-party fraudster. So the bank may or may not have some sort of liability in that aspect. And then also, sometimes in the rare cases where criminal charges are laid, sometimes criminal charges are potentially resolved through an agreement to return money from the fraudsters to the victims as well. And then, of course, we have regulators in certain areas. We have the OSC that regulates investments and potentially prosecutes scammers in the investment area. We have bank regulators. We have ombudsmen for insurance companies. There are all sorts of avenues. So it's really important not to assume because the money is gone that there's nothing you can do, but to speak to a lawyer or a paralegal to see what your options might be.
So the police have multiple roles. First one is to try to interdict. And so if there's a way to stop the money from making its way through the bank to some other bank, sometimes it's not uncommon. The police will make an international call to another law enforcement agency. If the money's being transmitted to the United States, the United Kingdom, or somewhere else where the police here have a good relationship, they can find out where that money went, first of all, contact the local police there. And if they get there in time, they might be able to stop that money from leaving that foreign bank. Because it might be too late to stop it from leaving the Canadian bank, but it might not be too late to stop it from leaving whatever bank that money's going to, especially because a lot of banks might put a hold on money that's incoming from a foreign country. So there might be more time, but you need to talk to the police quickly so that they can try to respond quickly. The other role that police might play is to actually investigate and prosecute people who commit fraud. Quite often it's difficult to prove who's involved in the fraud, especially if there's an international component to it. Quite often people who are perpetrating frauds from other countries are actually getting innocent victims here to be part of the scam and go pick up money. And they have a completely different tale that they tell them to try to get them part of the scam. But it's not uncommon that we can identify people here who are involved in fraud. And that's included lawyers, paralegals, mortgage brokers, people who are in the business of private lending, but knew that there was some sort of dishonest activity going on with the home equity that they were helping to take a profit off of. So the police do that. And then finally, police also have an educational role. They do put alerts out there. You might see things on the police website advising of a new flavor of fraud that hasn't happened in the past. And so if you follow your local police, whether it's on social media like on Facebook, or you simply go on the local police website, or you participate in a police seminar. Sometimes they'll go to a senior center or to community centers or to libraries to put on basically an informational lecture. These are all ways that you can alert yourself to fraud and make sure the police are doing their job by helping you identify it.
Often when we get reports, we at ACE get reports of scams, we do report or suggest to our clients to report directly to the police. And we often get a response saying it's a civil matter. Now, there are always civil aspects. Of course, anything can be brought in a civil suit. Um, but in our opinion, when a crime is committed, a scam or a fraud is committed, it is a criminal matter and should also be investigated by the police. Ontario does not have a great track record of investigating or prosecuting frauds or scams, even when charges are laid, actually carrying those through to a conviction as well. So we would like to see a greater use of our criminal powers to try to hold some of these individuals accountable, and also just to try to send out a message to potential future perpetrators that there's repercussions, or there may be repercussions for engaging in this type of criminality.
Sometimes the police do fail to be as diligent as we would like them to be. There are different reasons why that might be. One of them is that they're a bureaucracy and there are limited resources. And so there's an unlimited amount of police complaints that need to be investigated, but a limited amount of resources. However, when you have, as we often do in Ontario, scams that don't just target one person, but they're part of a larger part of organized crime or a systematic scheme that's being perpetrated over months or even years, by reporting it and by pushing the police to investigate, they might get a bigger budget to investigate just that type of fraud. And so it's important, as Bethany mentioned, that we don't just brush these things off as civil matters. Almost every criminal matter is going to also be a civil matter. O.J. Simpson was tried criminally. Then he was sued civilly. The fact that he could be sued civilly doesn't mean that he should not have been charged with murder, acquitted or not. The point is that if police tell you they're not going to investigate something because they say it's a civil matter, the first thing that you should ask them is it also a criminal matter? Because I'm not disputing that it's a civil matter, but it is also a criminal matter. And if you don't think that their answer is correct, talk to a lawyer or perhaps talk to their staff sergeant or other supervisor, depending on the rank structure where they are, to see if maybe somebody above them with more experience disagrees. Because quite often you might be talking to a newer officer, depending on the police service. There are a lot of new hires, and it might just take an experienced person with a second look to maybe escalate it. We've seen that happen sometimes. It's not that the police are intentionally shirking their duties, but sometimes they're just not aware, and when they have a more seasoned officer come in, it escalates the criminal investigation.
ACE would always recommend someone speaking to a trusted family member or a friend, so you can access resources there and have someone support you.